open, there's no reason not to pick it. Varus is likely to be the response from Guma. The question is, where does Vi and Lillia fall in terms of the priority for T1?
See if they decide to lock in the Vi here, or if, as you say, it's the Lillia. G2 would have a lot of options to answer that. Azir and Aurelion Sol still available to them. T1 going for the Varus first. I'm also wondering, coming into this series, how many lane swaps we're going to see. G2 were the progenitors of that in the LEC. Obviously, we saw it a little bit in the LPL before, but G2 played it in basically every one of their playoffs games after they showed it against BDS.
What's also big is that with the Nico already taken away, I think the Renata actually gains a ton of value, specifically for the aggressive playstyle that you can go for. And if G2 does end up going for that, I think you actually want to try and look for some aggressive plays. The Varus, as you already pointed out, Vedi, absolutely no surprise. I would love the Lillia here, because I think the Lillia into the Kalista makes that much harder to play out. But instead, going to be very early priority on the Zhao here. Probably has been the best, most consistent jungle bruiser. A lot of early pressure.
I mean, T1's looking at Orianna right now. You can see the engage already starting to come through. We know that Faker absolutely loves the champion, and Keria's support pool is deep enough that they'll be more than happy to allow G2 to pick that, maybe even give counter towards Keria. They can even look to blind pick the Cassante, given that it is available. Yike locks in his, why have I forgotten the name of the champion?
Lillia! Well,
oh my goodness.
Understandably, because it hasn't picked in a while, but Lillia, particularly into these melee junglers, with the amount of clear speeds that she has, can be incredibly oppressive. Really cool to see her right from the get-go, and then the Tristana locked in with it, so that you still have AD, AP pairing here for the mid-jungle 2v2.
And Yike has played Lillia 4 times this year, but most of it was back in winter, a few months ago. He's 100% win rate on it, very comfortable on the champ, but it is surprising to see it this early on in the draft. Although, you could say G2, as the team that loves to experiment, brings something new into the format, it's not too surprising to see from them.
Jaxban feels mandatory here with both TF and Zhao locked in. That's the only one that I am pretty sure T1 is going to go for. We'll see what else they want to do here. But already, first curveball being thrown here. The one thing that I do agree with you, what you said earlier, Vedi, is that I think it's most likely that T1 is just going to look for a straight-up support counter pick until they see what is paired with this Kalista. Keria, with his champ, people always going to be looking to try and get a good matchup in the 2v2.
T1 banning away the Zac. They might even consider banning away the Scion too, if the expectation is that the swap will come through. We do remember when Zeus's Twisted Fate did get swapped on. He didn't have the best time.
He did not.
So T1 definitely going to be prepared for that possibility. With the Renata taken away, something that you guys were talking about earlier as a potential support answer, does mean that G2 is looking at something like a Nautilus, a little bit more engaged on the bot side of the map. The question is, G2, they do need a little bit more engaged, a little bit more frontline to play around when you are running double AD carry. While you do have strong siege, potential scaling, great front to back, you need a frontline to actually play around to be able to play out these fights. So the Nautilus is going to be the ban away from T1. Reading the anticipation there from G2 and the Lillia response as they round out their bans.
Yeah, really big. Nautilus also gains a ton of value with the Renata already being off the board. So T1 not taking any risks there, as we are gonna, imagine, get Faker's mid lane pick here.
Still has a few options. The Orianna still available to him, Aurelion Sol and Azir, still possibilities. Faker, not known as a big Aurelion Sol player. In fact, I don't think we saw him on it at all in spring. Instead, the Azir locked in 11 games on that. Not too surprising, he's gone for something a little bit more comfortable.
I mean, it's Faker.
Yeah.
He's naturally going to go towards the champion that he's been known for many years.
Okay, lads, just very quickly. Any possibility Kalista support here? Tristana AD carry. Is there any possibility that happens?
That's a Yasuo
now the Yasuo's
top.
locked in.
That's a Yasuo top.
Rell for support, okay, so we're going to have the Kalista Rell bot lane, but for a moment my heart was in my mouth.
G2 wants standard lanes. So this was something that Broken Blade brought out domestically into the Twisted Fate. A lot of confidence bringing that out into Zeus. I know he didn't have the strongest performances, getting caught out at times, but still, to bring this into game one, Broken Blade has got to be feeling himself against the powerhouse in the form of Zeus.
It's going to be the Alistar lock-in here for Keria. A pick that he has not played nearly as much as some of the his other LCK contemporaries. Delight was most known for it. Incredible on Engage Sports does obviously have a great matchup into the Rell. Can cancel the crash down, try and create a lot of space. The G2 Definitely a lineup with a lot of pressure, and the engage combo with that Rell being able to both be thrown in with the Magnet Storm and the Yasuo, definitely something that T1 is going to have to look out for.
I think T1 coming into this tournament was unique in that they're a team that loves to pick 3 carries, right? They don't tend to defer towards the tank top while it's something that they can play. Carry topside is something that they love to do, and many teams have tried to avoid matching that carry style. Usually they'll default to things like the Cassante, playing more of the defensive kind of utility role. But Broken Blade answering with the carry, and G2 is a team saying, T1, we're willing to match your style and pick multiple carry threats, even putting Yike on the scaling Lillia in the jungle. G2 is looking to scrap, they're looking to skirmish, a lot of power farming and a lot of early jungle invades. Let's see what G2 can do as they go up against the defending world champions.
Couldn't have wished for a better draft going into game 1 here. Gonna make like Elsa and go into the unknown together, guys. All-time record between the two teams, G2 10 wins, T1 14. If G2 can somehow topple the current world champions here, that will start to even out towards their favor. The question is, can they do it? They brought us something very spicy for game 1. We'll have to wait and see if it works.
Really right from the get-go, throwing out a lot of curveballs here is G2. Where's T1's draft? I've seen him play these a million times, right? There is nothing too surprising here. It's very straightforward. That top lane matchup is going to be the main thing I'm going to focus towards. How is that going to be played out? Because Yasuo is very feast or famine in that 1v1, I can say, as someone who watched Khan pick it in 2021 in the World Finals, and that did not end up going very well.
And although the draft does kind of push you towards standard lanes, there is always the possibility of a lane swap. They have been a big proponent of it. We talked on the desk about it, Emily Rand, always pushing that lane swapping is good.
You like them as well.
Worse. I love lane swaps. I adore them, and if they happen, we'll talk about them as we are going to make our way onto Summoner's Rift for game 1 of this best of 5.
I'm excited, gentlemen. Like, what a game 1 to start us off. We know that T1 versus G2 has given us some incredible series in the past, and I'm hoping for another one today.
As we hear the support from the fans in the crowd, I'd say about 70-30 T1 favored here in Chengdu. G2 setting up relatively standard line of scrimmage here. Actually, all of them are on the bottom side of the map as T1 maybe looking to step in here. G2 trying to overload if Keria does overstep. Miky looking for Faker, who steps around the wall, and Miky's there for the knockback. Faker locked up first, there's nowhere for him to go. G2 first blood.
What was Faker doing there? Pushing in through mid, trying to work with his team. I think he was trying to ward Raptors. I mean, he gets the ward down. G2 with a level 1 plan. I believe anticipating that, secure first blood for Broken Blade.
I'm going to call not worth. I don't know about you guys, but
I'm pretty happy with how that went.
Getting a ward on the Raptor pit, not really going to be worth giving up first, but went to Broken Blade as well. And level 1 Alistar, you're not going to want to take that trade, so right from the get-go, G2 looking very explosive here. The one upside for Zeus is that Broken Blade hasn't been able to actually back yet and spend his gold. But once he does, that 1v1 is going to become even more precarious.
Interesting choice of runes in the bottom lane as well. Hansama going for the lethal tempo Kalista here instead of Hail of Blades. Gumayusi's running Hail of Blades, expecting to trade a little bit more in the lane. Often you run Arcane Comet if you're just going to look for that long-range poke. So we'll have to see how those 2v2s play out as Miky dives in, knocked up, and that's the power of Alistar into Rell.
Broken Blade getting the early level 2. Nice trade on the Zeus. Once the wind wall comes through from Broken Blade, you're going to see how challenging this matchup can be. And again, I got to compliment Broken Blade. He's had a bit of a negative stigma around him when it comes to performing internationally. Last year, I think he honestly had a very solid performance overall from G2's side. But we'll see how he does. So far, off to a strong start, securing that first blood as Yike does full clear from top side, pathing towards bot. Oner mirroring him on the other side, but note that it's G2 has push in the bot lane. We'll see what Yike can do with this if he's looking for any type of invade.
Do you also see already, and this is something that's only going to become more pronounced as the game goes on, is that Yike is going to naturally outpace Oner. So Oner is going to have to make an impact on the map because of the fact that this Lillia, particularly once she gets to her first item spike, is going to be able to get so much done as Miky looking for Oner in the jungle.
I mean, look at this. 3 pushing lanes for G2. Broken Blade getting a cheater recall in. Picked up the recurve bow already. Miky actually not dropping a ward. Keria forced to move into the jungle to help Oner secure this camp, expecting an invade from Yike, but he's choosing not to commit it for now.
Cheetah recall in bot lane for Hans Summer as well as they got that push in. He's now got a longsword and a ward to try and spot out Oner's early pathing. Oner's even in the mid lane though. Faker didn't burn any summoners at that level 1, so Cap's just trying to trade into the Azir here.
Faker also gone for the Halo Blades, which we often see when you're trying to play into one of these more aggressive matchups. Try and get the short trades, get full out of that rune, and then disengage. As Oner looking for a play towards bot side here.
I'm not sure how much of this is just trying to make sure the push can come from T1. They do have a ward in the pixel bush. Oner might be waiting for the crash back as well if G2 overextend. I expect to see him getting to this bush and then just starting his recall.
A little bit.
A very tense moment. It would be very dangerous for G2 to force this as now they look for a play top.
Zeus has exhaust, flashes away from the Steel Tempest, would have been knocked up and locked in a card, but can't use it on G2.
The wave state is now in a horrible spot for Zeus. He knows that his jungle is covering for the bot side, afraid of a gank, but fortunately for the bot side, they should now be able to get this push in, look for a recall if they want one.
And you immediately see Oner pathing up towards top side.
He has to.
Yeah, helps that his Krugs are there as well, so he can do those on the way, but looks like he's just going to try and make sure his top laner is okay in this lane.
Halo Blades coming through from Faker. We've seen so many different runes for Azir throughout the year, but the Fleet Footwork coming out from Caps will help him get a little bit more sustain in the early levels.
Yeah, we've seen everything from Comet to Fleet to
Grasp.
Conqueror to Grasp. Yeah, the Grasp one
I'm glad that didn't stick around for too long.
Yeah, that one was not very fun and interactive. Oner is going to get spotted here again, and also what we're talking about, delayed himself a little bit there towards the bot side of the map to maybe look for a play. And Yike, he's just farming and farming and farming. And again, with these AP junglers, early on, the difference won't be as pronounced, but once you get to mid-game, once you get to the first item spike, which I assume will just be a Leandries, you're going to so insanely outpace the T1. They're going to need to try and look for something, but due to the early laning phase, really in every single lane, I don't know how many opportunities they are going to get unless they find an actual play, but we have the prio. Oner has been tracked very meticulously.
I mean, there's little Oner can do in these early levels, right? You've already highlighted it. When you're playing against 3 pushing lanes, Yike has so much freedom. The fact that he hasn't chosen to invade was kind of the more surprising part, as T1 did try to play around it, but didn't have too much to be worried about. Broken Blade, level 6.
Last breath. Don't think he can kill Zeus here, but he can chunk him out. Oner on the bottom side of the map. Will he be spotted on a ward?
Junglers hovering around top. Oh, hang on.
Engage coming in from Keria. Oner's on his way across. There's the stun as well as Mickey tries to Pyromancy away. Flashes as well. Will survive for the moment. Oner can't quite land the win. Becomes like coming to join the party. Caps TP'd in, but T1 able to walk away from this for now. Yike not yet level 6, so doesn't have that loating lullaby.
T1 going to feel good about that one. Got a TP out of Caps, buying Faker a little bit of time in that mid lane. And not going to give anything up outside of the Ignite. Mickey does have Hex Flash, so not the end of the world. If they would have gotten the kill, though, that could have been a big turning point. Not going to be the case. Caps is going to be able to catch the wave. T1, the proactive play. It's a little advantage, but not that much. Zeus, crucially, which is why I think he stayed in the lane for so long, as Broken Blade pulls it, gets it pushing into him, that he wanted to hit 6 in case there was either an opportunity on the map or maybe a really aggressive push from Broken Blade as Mickey.
X-Flash forward. Faker has a flash. And also just dash away, dodges the stun. Faker sidesteps. Sublime to see. Caps still has the jump away here. Oner can look for the win, becomes lightning across the wall, doesn't land it. Caps now with the push in mid can move up towards this top side and help Yike take the grubs. Looks like Oner won't get any of those first course of grubberinos.
And so far in this early game, things looking up for G2. When you kind of want to look at it holistically, Zeus still doing very well considering the amount of pressure that's been thrown towards him on the top side of the map.
Caps going in, knocked back. We've seen Caps do this before he flashes. Not quite enough damage, but one more Mono is enough for Caps to get G2's second kill.
Faker walked back into that. I think he might have been able to get out with Caps flashing, having to because of the ultimate, but no. Second death here for Faker, and G2 pulling further ahead.
Caps this year has been performing out of his mind. Undisputably considered the best mid, the best player in the LEC. Starts the series off with a solo kill.
Bell goes in with the last breath, the loating lullaby as well. Double sleep, Yike knocked back, watch out, Eep indeed for T1! And a gorgeous flash from Broken Blade! The Keyblade follow-up! G2 are 4-0 up!
And the exhaust and Broken Blade, that doesn't matter when Yike is there, level 6. Haunting, guys, done.
even with the flash. T1 getting obliterated here in the early game.
G2 defying expectations 8 minutes in. They find themselves with a 2k gold lead. But we should never jump to conclusions. T1, they do a good job of finding ways back into the game, but so far this early game is just individual prowess. Caps gets knocked underneath the tower by Faker. Quick thinking, using the ultimate to knock Faker out of range. He follows it up with the reset from his W, and the flash secures a kill. And then we look at the top play.
And here again, the exhaust, yeah, it mitigates some of the damage, but the sleep still comes through. And because both Oner and Zeus are slapped, is an opportunity. Broken Blade getting the flash knock-up as well.
And
We come back to a pause. Wow. Okay.
Against it. And then the Yasuo. This is so sick.
We're getting back, I think. Sorry, Raz. I will hear from you.
No, I
want
to see the game.
All right, take it away, Medic.
The game we are back on into it was a keyboard issue for Gumayusi that has now been rectified. Yike on the top side of the map. But let's just evaluate where we are. It's about a 2,500 gold lead for G2. They got the first 3 grubs, a lead for Broken Blade in the top lane. Bot lane relatively even, as you can see. No gold differences there.
Imagine now G2 is going to be looking towards these dragons. Want to try and start stacking them up early, particularly with the lead that they have already generated for themselves. Yike already halfway towards his Leandris. And once the level 6 becomes available, there is a lot of lockdown on T1, which makes it a little bit careful. We already mentioned, right, like gold card combos can be found, but between the wind wall and the fact that Mickey can play very aggressive because he's paired with the Kalista, can just be pulled back at any time. And then you have Caps with the buffer on his W as well. There are a lot of slippery members here, so we'll see to what extent T1 can lock down a target.
Oner spotted by the Sentinel as he starts up the Drake, would have been spotted by the ward in the back anyway. Yike, even though he's running those Ionian Boots of Lucidity, does have Legend Tenacity in his room page, so we'll have a bit of tenacity for those later fights. It looks like G2 are just going to give up pressure around this dragon. They were getting pushed in the bot lane because Mickey roamed towards mid.
Look at Caps right now. You've always got to keep your eyes on this man in the mid lane. He knows that Faker has moved down towards the bot side. Zeus aware of the potential play.
Zeus steps into the bush, Caps looking for him. Gold card locked, but Zeus doesn't really have the damage yet to take down Caps, as the plated steel Caps first though, so he doesn't take too much of his own health bar.
Big thing here, of course, is that if Caps can go there undetected and he can just press R on Zeus, last breath follow-up, and there's basically no way to outplay that. Instead, it's going to be the dragon, and the roam will get punished.
Oh, Oner might just look to get Caps here. Wind becomes lightning, hits. Caps going to jump away. Oner can go for the chase. There's the Destiny as well, and Caps in his jungle tries to jump away again. Flash from Zeus. T1 on the board.
Nice collapse from Zeus. And T1 punishing the roam from Caps. He's going to lose more than just a plate. He's going to lose 2 waves in the mid lane. Zeus now going to lose a little bit of his own, but he shouldn't be too hurt off the back of that. T1 proving their tenacity, and after the pause, able to bounce back and find a big pick.
Big thing there as well. Oner in a good position to catch the roam back from Caps, who ends up not only dropping a blade, but also getting killed. And then because Oner's present, Broken Blade also has to play respectful, can't go too crazy onto Zeus, even though the exhaust is still down. This is one of the things you can do with the Lillia, but given that Keria isn't currently known on the map, I think Yike makes the right call.
The important thing for Yike here is you take a step in, you look for it, you reset Faker's recall, because then you can go for these grubs if you want. You get the mid push, you can already see Mickey moving across as well. Broken Blade has the push in the top lane. Keria is trying to answer, he's level 6, as is Mickey, so we'll see how much work, how much displacement Keria can bring out if a fight does begin.
TPs are about to come back up for the mid laners. Faker making his way back towards mid, but the Mickey roam up towards top means that this is going to be 6 grubs secured for G2, which seems to have been their priority with the Lillia. Broken Blade finding another nice trade towards top side. This matchup only going to get worse. Earlier we said that the gold was pretty even, but obviously after that small skirmish, you can see a 20 CS discrepancy starting to build up. And while Hansama is falling behind a little bit, a lot of that is just off the back of Mickey permanently roaming towards the mid lane. And Hansama kind of being forced to play this 2v1, which he's doing all right in for now.
And now Broken Blade is sitting on a Kraken Slayer, his Berserker Greaves, and the wave state is an absolutely abhorrent place for Zeus. So really hard for him, and we see he's actually moving out on that to try and look for a play.
Yeah, Faker's coming down towards the bottom side. Zeus can cover mid, or he can work his way down here, but with no Destiny, it's immediately called off by T1. The ward over the wall, spotting him out. Caps stepping a little bit further forward. He knows T1 are in his bot side jungle. Caps swiped back. should be able to jump to safety as Oner's coming in. Yike looking for a bit of damage, but the collapse from the rest of G2 is not there, so in the end, it will just be a stop of the skirmish.
A little bit disjointed there from T1. Faker committing the ultimate, and I imagine that there would be follow-up, but Oner not quite in position, and of course, being Xin also needs to actually proc his Broken Blade.
Immediately goes up towards the top side. Broken Blade thinking he can step past this, maybe even proxy the wave to keep Zeus behind in the lane, but now Broken Blade is getting collapsed on. Caps pushing in the mid lane, should be able to get a plate of his own. Broken Blade stepping away here, tries to put the damage down onto Zeus, who locks in the gold card. Yeah, Broken Blade, you don't win this 2v1. Zeus steps in, there's the gold card, Baker shuffles forward, and Broken Blade should fall. He goes in with the last breath, but the shutdown to Faker is enough. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Lifting Lullaby on Oner forces him away. Another plate for G2 as Keria looks for the stun. Knocked back, TP behind by Faker, still no Shurima shuffle for him. He does have the flash though, and Mickey doesn't have much of a health bar left as T1 continues to collapse. Keria has the flash. Headbutt pulverize, goes in onto Caps, Destiny behind, and now Caps needs to get the hell out of there, but T1 are trying to send him to the depths. Faker chasing in, Faker finds another. And from what was a great game state for G2, T1 punch back.
Looks like the reboot was successful for Faker. Just barely able. It was a 4-0 start for G2, is now all of a sudden 4-3.
We are going to get back on into the game. It was the same issue as last time. Gumayusi had a problem with his keyboard, and here we are back onto Summoner's Rift. 14 minutes in, the plates now fall off. T1 able to get 3 in the mid lane. Faker about 600 gold ahead. He's currently sitting on about 2,000 gold in his inventory. Drake up in 46 seconds, so Faker will want to get a recall off before that. Have another look at this mid lane play. TP behind by the Azir as G2 have overstepped.
So G2 think that they can get a nice dive here. They don't respect the ability of Faker to TP, but I think to add insult to injury is the Twisted Fate ultimate as well. Mickey splits off from the pack. I imagine trying to bait T1 away from his teammates, but they see their eyes on the prize. They want to get this kill on the Caps. The flash committed from Faker means that he's able to get a bit of revenge. Yike just barely getting away with his life.
Mickey going in onto Faker here. No flash on the Azir. Just trying to keep him busy. Still hasn't spent that gold. T1 investing on the top side. Gumayushi's moved up here, so this will be their Rift Herald. Hansamah's going to be able to take a plate in the bottom tower in the bottom lane with those 6 grubs. Obviously a lot quicker in terms of taking turrets, and it looks like T1 might just be sacrificing the second dragon of the game to make sure that they can get control over this Rift Herald.
Herald, though, going to be valuable when it comes to sieging. Things like Tristana and Azir both have incredible wave clear, and that Herald is so important for being able to unlock that mid-tower. Oner doing a good job of counter-jungling as well, stealing away what camps he can. And ultimately, the map has been split. Isolating Broken Blade a little bit, but he's not going to be too upset about that.
I do like it from T1 though, because Broken Blade doesn't have vision in the river at all anymore, so he can't step very far forward without the threat of Oner coming across, of Faker coming across. Faker currently the one matching him in that side lane. Hansamah and Mickey have been moved to mid, and it looks like it's going to be Caps versus Zeus down towards the bottom side of the map.
And it's been mostly skirmishing that we've seen. A lot of 2v2s, a lot of 3v3s, and that is where the TF, even when he's behind, really, at this point, you can almost buy Shirelles, just run at people.
Zeus.
He's
going to die.
Yeah, Lillia's there.
Yike's on his way. There's no way for Zeus to get out of this one. Has exhaust, has splash. Shouldn't burn either of them. As soon as he sees Yike arriving, watch out. Eep as Zeus falls in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, on the top side, T1 take a turret.
Now, Chronicler, this is something that isn't new to Zeus this split, am I right?
No, he's been doing this a whole lot. The TF is a pick that has been a very successful for T1 when it's doing well, particularly in the 1v1. Zeus is insanely oppressive, but in these type of game states, it is really easy to get caught off guard, push way too far. And again, G2 now back up to about 2.5k, so building the gold lead again, thanks to that first turret blood and the kill on Zeus.
You think about the 6 grubs value as well. Yasuo sitting in a side lane, the Tristana sieging as well. We already saw how much damage Caps was able to get on the bot side. Remember that they were buffed coming into MSI too, so we've seen more teams putting more priority on securing those 6 grubs, and I think for G2, it's really just going to help them siege and threaten these side lanes that they have so much influence over.
See as well, T1 making sure if this mid lane turret falls as well, and is quite low, even with Caps dying twice, it's still Tristana, so is still going to have a really easy time chewing through that turret health. The entire ring of outers is going to be gone. And as already mentioned, I think that T1 still have a really strong 5v5. You can't always create vision with the TF ultimate. but if you don't have a good grasp of where the members on G2 are, any combo of Miky or Yike or Broken Blade finding their access onto the enemy backline is going to be an absolute disaster.
See both teams just playing the do we have the numbers game. Who do we see in the side lane? Okay, we see them as Miky steps forward. Dances away. Oner still very healthy. Miky took a huge chunk there. Hasn't got his first item yet.
Herald
down in mid lane would make sense here as T1 look to pressure this mid lane turret. All 5 members around here. Caps recalling in a side lane. This turret has been given up by G2. Well claimed by T1.
I think they can escort the Herald in for another siege. Broken Blade has made his way mid. Caps doesn't want to overstay bot. He recognizes the potential collapse and they'll get it. T1 getting decent value out of this Herald. They'll be the first to open up the mid tier 1. G2 will likely look to try and respond with the dragon spawning in about 2 minutes time. You imagine that'll be the next big point of contention.
Vedius, T1. The Baron's up before that.
That's a good point.
Very good call.
I mean, I was thinking to myself earlier, oh, hang on a second, Broken Blades.
Manages to get onto Gumayusi, who has the cleanse, who has the flash, and has the chain of corruption, but it's blocked by the wind wall. G2 investing the TP here as Miky falls to a piercing arrow, and Keria finds the double knock-up. Yike trying to do everything he can as Caps is forced away with the exhaust. Zeus logs in the gold card. Summer has to cleanse. And there goes Oner pushing forward once again. The Destiny onto the back line as Yike now locked up, shut down by Faker. Summer next on the menu as the dive forward continues for T1. It's beautiful.
And Guma, of all people, if he looks to be too juicy of a target, he probably is. The man has been so consistent. He's the bait served up. And G2 take it. Broken Blade had a 2-man knock-up there just as Keria was going in. So a few members of G2 end up making it out. That could have gone even worse here as G2 look to punish, look to go for the mid lane turret, and it ends in disaster.
So it's Guma that gets knocked up, the engage from Oner to then try and split G2 up. Zeus connects the stun, and then Guma still ends up securing the kill. The nice knock-up from Keria means that he's now buying so much time against 3 members. Caps is forced to disengage. And then G2 is on the retreat. A nice flash knockup from Oner. The ultimate from TF alongside Faker engaging means that G2 gets run down and just excellent teamfight execution from T1. All 5 stay alive and G2 lose 3.
Yeah, you talked about it, Chronicler. The team fight from T1 is just exceptional. Miky unable to have any effect. You mentioned that as well. Miky needs to be able to get in there, have that Magnet Storm, lock up a few people here. He's chunked out before he even gets close to the fight. Now trying to get that flank off, blast cones in, 20 minutes on the clock, and T1 have said, well, it's time to dine on a Baron Dragon up, but it would only be the second of the game for either team.
G2 honestly have a better composition when it comes to taking the Baron than T1 though. T1 obviously a Faker who is building towards that Leandries, but between the on-hit Kalista as well as a Fed Lillia, there is a lot of power as Broken Blade.
One more down, gold card out, Keria goes back in, chain of corruption for the follow-up, Miky looking for the Magnet Storm, Caps dives into the backline, Broken Blade with the last breath, as Zeus tries to flash away, he kills Broken Blade, Caps gets one, but Gumayusi puts him in his place. Sent to the 7 hells as G2 lose 2. T1 have lost 1, only Zeus falling.
G2 getting a little desperate with them forcing these fights. Gumayusi and Faker completely untouched. A heavy commitment onto trying to kill Zeus means that both Caps and Broken Blade lose their lives.
I don't know why they have to be. Now, for the first time in this game, T1 is sitting on a gold lead. They're going to be able to get a second Drake here as well.
Miky looking for another engage, but there's not a lot of vision.
No vision at all. Yike could try and steal with the swell seed. Miky's just dead. He's had a struggle on this Rell, hasn't really been able to get into the game at all.
Faker started this game 0-2. He is now dominating with a 2k gold lead over Caps. Level 14 on the Azir, 6-2-1.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but if you put the control ward too far on your side of that bush, you can still be spotted, and their resets are stopped by Summer.
The moment they see Hans Hopter, I was like, oh, wait, something's up here, gentlemen.
As we take another look here, even though Broken Blade is able to deny the gold card, the amount of space being bought here by Oner and Keria specifically means that only Caps is actually dealing damage into the enemy backline, and even though Faker doesn't hit him with the ultimate, still with the fight being split, Keria standing in the front, there's not enough damage available.
Yeah, just an execution error there from Broken Blade. He doesn't get the ultimate onto the backline. He then tries to connect a knockup from his Q, misses it onto Gumayusi, which means that he and Zeus then have enough space to turn the fight around in their favor. And again, it's just G2 really trying to force these fights. They knew that the Dragon was up, but questionable whether they needed to try and force that in mid lane. Ultimately, a great engage from Keria, punishing Broken Blade for looking for that pick. And now T1 find themselves with the momentum swung in their favor.
I think praising Keria is often a good thing to do when T1 are playing.
Yeah.
It is a safe bet. I wonder how his Alistar would be, considering he's known much more for, you know, the AD carries, a bit more damage, the Nico, the Rumble, things like that, but very proficient on it in this game. Alongside him, Faker just absolutely ripping through G2 after getting that bounty in the top lane on Broken Blade. It's all coming up roses for Faker and for T1. Not to doubt Zeus as well. He fell so far behind, but every fight, a gold card on the right target. Someone jumps in, gold card, burn the wind wall, then you follow up with another gold card. Remembering exactly how it ticks so you can lock it in immediately as you come in with your wild cards.
Oh, there we go. We talked about it. TP is invested.
So BB has TP. Faker TP's up to the top lane. Mickey's going to jump the wall. Faker not going to slide forward. No vision in the pit for G2. Keria flashing, knocked back, locked up with the stun card, the chain of corruption, and Caps is clapped.
Keria once again. His Alistar is absolutely popping off in this game. He punishes Caps, and now the Baron is unlocked for T1.
The Tristana character with so much built-in safety, you feel safe to just walk towards that unwarded brush, but unfortunately for Caps, Keria was waiting. They will get a consolation turret on the other end of the map. Doesn't look like they're gonna get much more than that though. It's waiting. Zeus did have his ultimate available, but that is going to be...
Decides against it, no Destiny forward. That's all for that play. T1 now 1,500 gold ahead. They have the Red Bull Baron power play to work with. What can they get out of it? Well, there's a tier 1 in the bot lane. All the tier 2s still remain. Gold will be flowing into their pockets like mana from heaven if they play this properly, and they've been playing the mid game pretty properly so far.
I mean, just a great pick found from Keria. He's controlling the space well. T1, they were setting up the Baron nicely, and they just utilized the darkness to perfection. Great flash engage. They find a pick, they convert it into a Baron. 2k gold lead now for T1. They're beginning to extend their control, moving into G2 side of the map. They have a comfortable advantage, and they have a bot tower that they want to secure.
Really, one of the big benefits of the roster staying together for as long as they have, that we've collectively watched them go from their Baron calls being kind of a meme, where it's like, well, let's 50-50 it, to them now genuinely, and even within the LCK, we saw this countless times, having incredible, not just kind of a sense for when to start these Barons, but how they utilize them to pressure side lanes, how they utilize them to set up the map as Caps.
Gold card once again. Caps exhausted, trying to trade with Zeus. No flash for him. Gumu and Oner on the chase, dash forward with the audacious charge, chain of corruption, and Caps is sent packing. 2-5-2 now.
I mean, I guess Caps was just looking for something on a side lane. T1 are not going to give him any options, which means that T1 going to extend their gold lead now. 3k is the Baron power play. Dragon spawning in 35 seconds. G2 are going to be forced to give this one away. Faker ticked over to level 16 not that long ago, and he's working towards what looks to be a death cap 4th item.
And we talked a little bit about MSI being T1's boogeyman tournament. Well, last year at MSI, Caps was one of the main problems on G2. He really struggled to have an impact. This year, he's been performing incredibly in the LEC. We were talking about whether it's Prime Caps back from the dead. In this game, he has been struggling.
Early game looked good, but ever since that topside roam didn't end up working out, it's been quite rough. T1 now setting up, making their way over. Baron about to time out, looking to play towards this. Oh, they try to cop some Faker.
Just to kill Faker. It's been said so many times. The flash from Faker immediately pops the stopwatch. Gumayusi here for the chain of corruption blocked with the wind wall, and Faker will fall, but Mickey almost follows. Face call gets him out. Oner, Keria, Gumayusi, and Zeus on the chase forward. Gold card locked again. Keria gets a double knock of the Caps. Able to buffer out of it. Keria on the backline. Kills off Mickey. Yike trying to do everything he can. Broken Blade low. Buster shot into the engage with the last breath, but it's Broken Blade who has lost the breath from his lungs. Yike looking for more. Oner low. Gumayusi and Zeus very healthy though, and Hans Summer. Caps and Yike will just back away. Can look to set up a play, but won't try and trap T1.
Even in a 4 versus 5, T1 are able to equalize the team fight. They play with such patience, and the way they use their range means that G2 really struggle to find a target. Keria buys a bunch of time with his ultimate, then Oner buys a bunch of time with his ultimate. G2 seem to be limited in their options as to how they win these fights.
It's also one of the big issues that many teams in the LCK have talked about is, oh, Zeus might be overextended here, the TP.
Gumayusi is there, Chain of Corruption about to come back off cooldown. Caps jumps onto Zeus. Locked up with the gold card once again. Counter TP as Caps look for the play, but T1 answer with a fist of their own. Caps down again. Baker TP's in, and you have to think that might just be it for G2.
I just look for the end here. T1 pushing down through mid.
They're going to be on the inhibitor tower very shortly. Broken Blade and Mickey trying to defend, but it's the Nexus turrets that they will be defending. I think T1 just want the inhib. Get the Drake, get yourself on Soul Point, take anything from G2's jungle on the way out.
As I was saying earlier, one of the big things that many teams have talked about when it comes to facing T1 is that it becomes a mind game of its own. Is Faker overextended? Because sometimes he is, or is it just, is the rest of T1 ready to respond? And it becomes kind of a lose-lose situation where you have to punish him in situations like that. But when the rest of the team is ready, it can backfire immensely.
4.2k is the gold lead he has over Caps right now. The bot lane as well for T1. I mean, I was going to say a silent carrier, but Keria has not been silent this game. His impact has been absolutely massive. And, but Gumayusi, 0 deaths. His positioning has been flawless in these fights. As desperately as G2 has tried to get onto the backline, he has really been in no danger at all. And T1 demonstrating the level of their team fighting and how difficult it is to team fight against this roster. The Dragons secured. T1 poised to take game 1 of this series. And while G2 showed us some promising things in the early game, T1 have bounced back incredibly well.
You look at where G2 had their lead, mostly on Broken Blade. He's at 3 items, but so is Zeus. Now has a bounty on his head. Someone's really angry at him for being 60 CS down at 1.6k.
I mean, I wouldn't trust TF. I'll put out a bounty on his head.
Yeah.
You know he's involved.
Sure
he's involved in some nefarious business, okay?
Him and Graves looking shady.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Magnus saw him in as immediately they dive in. Baker puts the Emperor's Divide down, but G2 from the darkness found something. Zeus with the blast cone out. Will G2 overextend for more? Will T1 catch them in that trap?
And that's what I was talking about. You got to keep looking for the plays. They take down Faker. It will buy them a little bit of time as the Baron is about to come up here. There was a decent amount invested, though. We'll see if T1 is going to at least posture, maybe set up a trap.
I will say, Faker seemed to be cautious of a potential play. I don't think he was expecting that, though. There was very little he could do in the situation. Didn't have flash, did commit the ult. Now G2 with the numbers advantage, they need to look for a fight.
Baron up, no TP on Faker, he's 20 seconds away. Gold card locked once again as Mickey's down to half HP, only has that Trailblazer in terms of completed items. G2 might just call for the flip here. Go for the 50-50, you're so far down in the hole anyway. 5,000 gold behind T1, Destiny out. Keria getting forced away by Caps. G2 still on the Baron, Chain of Corruption just goes wide. Mickey locked up with a gold card once again. The Baron down to 2,000. Zeus takes 1, but Yike gets the Baron. Keria with a 3-man knockup, Oner with the Crescent Guard. Stopwatch coming out as G2 just try and get out of the fight, but they might look for more. Yike has the lilting lullaby, only locks up Oner. Unsummer dancing and ducking and weaving his way around the pit, but he just can't get away. Gold card locked again as Yike's day will be ended. The Baron for what? Perhaps a Nexus.
Incredible team fight once again from T1. Keria just keeps finding these engages. They have 5 people alive, only 2 left to defend. I don't know if the Baron buff is going to be enough to keep G2 alive in this game.
It would be a miracle to end all miracles as Caps is just demolished. Broken Blade there in time with the wind wall. The Baron up minions helping out G2 a little bit here as T1 start the siege. Keria down to half HP, Unbreakable will almost back up for him. The first Nexus tower falling lower. They're trying to get both at the same time. They take 1. Mickey goes for the engage, last breath, but it's only onto Zeus. The Magnus Storm not going to do too much. And it looks like it's all over for G2 in game 1. Oner playing with his food a little bit as Broken Blade's locked up. Caps trying to get the damage down, but Hans Summers next on the menu as T1 clean up G2. And it's T1 G0.
The amount of dive available for G2, and Guma somehow ends up with a perfect KDA on an immobile carry. The early game, the counter picks, I love the game plan from G2, but it felt like in the middle there, they kind of lost track. And once they lost control, once you lose control to T1, they are not very easily going to give it back.
The momentum shifted incredibly fast, and T1 seemed to never let it go.
We'll have to see what the analysts think of that game, but it was a banger nonetheless.
It absolutely was, but this is the best comeback team in the world, and you've given them their comeback on a silver platter. They will not say no to that, and they finished the game the way they took it over after, I want to say, the first pause, right? It's almost like they flipped the switch immediately. And it's interesting how I was talking to Maurits before, and he said one thing you need to know, Gumayusi has been the most consistent player for this team for a long, long time, and he, together with the rest of his bot lane, just masterfully played that game.
It was so beautiful, and it felt like it was just that one opening. The moment they found that one opening, and to me, that was